What's going on, folks? Zach from Shelf here. Hope you guys are doing good and reading lots of manga. Today, as you can tell behind me, we're going to be talking about a manga that I am super obsessed with. Something that I bought volume 1 of, sat on my shelf for a few months, and then I picked up the rest of it, and oh my god, guys, this manga is so bloody good. And if it isn't already painfully obvious, today we are going to talk about Gamon Sakurai's Ajin Demi-Human. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Ajin is set in a world where behind the veil of everyday life exists a subset of humans called Ajin, or Demi-Humans. These Demi-Humans possess an ability to regenerate from fatal or extraneous circumstances that trigger upon their death, which essentially makes them immortal. Demi-Humans also have the ability to create these mysterious black ghosts, which are invisible to humans, but are highly volatile fighters with varying degrees of intelligence. Considered a danger to the general public, most Demi-Humans are actually captured by various government entities worldwide, which subjects them to cruel punishments such as torture, experimentation, and organ harvesting. The story kicks off when a young student by the name of Kei Nagai is hit by a truck while crossing the road after school. As fast as we're thrown into this story, Kei quickly becomes the subject of a nationwide manhunt when he gets up and it is revealed that he himself is a Demi-Human. After escaping with his childhood friend Kaito, Kei makes his way through the various forests and villages of the Japanese countryside in hopes of running away and making it to safety. Along the way, Kei comes into contact with two other Demi-Humans by the name of Sato and Koji, who essentially bait him into meeting with them by kidnapping his very ill sister. Sato attempts to explain his position as a Demi-Human who feels that it is a necessity to go after the humans that have wronged them. But despite his understanding of this, Kei doesn't share his particular views. Kei is then tranquilized by Sato and Koji and handed over to the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare in the hopes that he would become educated, with Sato hoping that with Kei being experimented on, that would change his mind. And as expected, Kei is quickly relegated to being a guinea pig for various experimentations that see him strapped to a table and killed over and over and over again. In a further effort to manipulate Kei, Sato and Koji storm the facility where Kei is being kept in order to free him. However, this doesn't go quite as expected when Kei begins to fight back against Sato, seeing him for what he truly is. Thus beginning the cat and mouse game that is Kei trying to stop Sato from wreaking havoc on the world, and Sato exponentially ramping up his attacks against humanity. Ajin is a manga that appealed to me on a bunch of different levels, mostly the interesting deaths, the gratuitous violence, and how society views Demi-Humans and the way they dehumanize them, despite a lot of these Demi-Humans that we meet in the story having a lot more human ideals than human themselves. But two things surprise me above all, and that's how well written Kei Nagai and Sato are as characters, and how downright clever some of this manga is. Throughout the course of the series, Kei finds himself having to become more cold and calculated in order to survive, which often contrasts with the morals and values he held before he awakened as a Demi-Human. While this isn't a unique concept to explore, especially in manga, there was virtually no internal struggle with Kei adapting to the new world in order to survive. Instead, Kei knew there were certain things he had to do in order to stay alive and didn't wrestle with them on a moral level. Now, of course, with this new territory comes some skepticism and distrust in people, which we see when he meets another Demi-Human by the name of Ko and then locks him in a turned-over transport truck. Kei then learns that you can't really trust anybody when you're a Demi-Human, so you gotta get all the help you can get, which again we see when he lets Ko out of the transport truck. As the story progresses, we also see Kei team up with antagonists from early on in the series in order to work towards a mutual goal, which is stopping Sato. Now, Sato, on the other hand, I may need to make a separate video on because after reading the 15 volumes that are available from Vertical right now, I'm confident in saying that he has become my favorite villain of pretty much every anime and manga that I've ever read or watched. In fiction, most villains are villains because their values contrast with that of the heroes, or even with the values of the society, and in many cases a villain would consider themselves a hero from their point of view. Sato does not follow that archetype. Sato is essentially a chaos junkie, as we can see from the way his attacks ramp up in scale and brutality throughout the series. His attacks are not only brutal and chaotic, but they are undoubtedly some of the most clever schemes I've seen from a villain in fiction. I will say, without spoiling too much, that a couple of my favorite of Sato's schemes are A, how he infiltrates the Forge security building, and then B, the beginning of the current story arc in Ajin, where he essentially takes a bunch of fighter jets and suicide bombs them over and over and over again. I know this sounds like a really bad thing to say, sounds really cool, but it's actually unbelievably badass. Now, another thing I really love about Ajin are these black ghosts, also known as IBMs, because while they're presented to us as these badass paranormal fighters, the way they're written to be fallible makes them seem almost believable. Unlike a lot of other anime and manga, the main character cannot just shout a catchphrase or call upon a black ghost like a Pokemon. They only last within a certain time frame, one can exhaust their ability to create them, and they're not exactly 100% controllable. There's also a lot of really interesting history and lore that goes into the origin of the black ghosts. I can't really get into it without spoiling it, but there's a concept in Ajin called an IBM flood, and when you get to see this IBM flood, chills, straight chills. Now, the art in Ajin is also pretty top-notch. There's a level of consistency and no jarring changes in quality between the first and current volume that really speaks to Gamon Sakurai's skill as an artist. Between the seemingly average, mundane character designs that lend to the story's root and reality, the expressiveness of the supernatural in action, and the gorgeous shots of chaos of varying degrees, reading Ajin is basically like watching an action movie on paper. Ajin knows exactly where to expend the realism and capitalize on the paranormal, towing the line between being something you can genuinely see happening in the real world and something you genuinely hope never will. The cat and mouse game between Kei and Sato makes the one between Death Note's Light and L seem like child's play. And just when you think things can't get any crazier, the series goes ahead and redefines the bloody word. Fans of action, conspiracy, and the paranormal find themselves immediately captivated with Ajin. Rather than muddying it up by adding new characters, new antagonists, and new goals for everybody to reach, Ajin focuses on its already developed cast of characters by simply upping the stakes at the end of each arc. And despite this being a very dark and harrowing story, the only comfort you are going to find in Ajin is in its consistency, both in the storytelling and its quality. And despite the fact that this series is chock full of action, this is a story about those unfairly designated as inhuman finding their humanity or surviving in spite of it. So I wholeheartedly recommend Ajin to anybody who wants to feel their heartbeat in the tip of their finger with the turn of each page. Gamon Sakurai's Ajin Demi-Human is available in English through Vertical Link. And if you're interested in checking this series out, I will leave some links in the description below for where you guys can check that out. Now, have you at home read Ajin? If you have, let me know in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter at UchuShelf, on Instagram at UchuShelf. And if you haven't, check it out, let me know what you think, and tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not. I'm definitely right. This series is awesome. And while you're here, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Your support means a heck of a lot to me, helps me get the motivation to make more videos like this, giving you guys manga recommendations, and so on and so forth. And of course, you get to see the dome. That's right, I beat you to it. Can't call me bald if I beat you to it. And as always, don't forget to support legal manga. Go to www.wherecanIreadmanga.com to get the lowdown on where you guys at home can read manga for free through a subscription or per volume, and do it all in a way that supports the manga industry, supports the creators, supports people in the industry, and gets us more manga like this stuff right here. But until next time, folks,